Hear ye, the dishonorable widow Abigail will now speak. Attention, all weirdos, losers, rednecks, white trash, aliens, outcasts, outliers, sluts, whores, gangsters, thugs, poors, and anyone else who the world and society don't care about. I have a podcast for you. Come join me at the Manic Pixie Weirdo, where we talk about all the different kinds of relationships we have in our lives. From movies to math and suicide hotlines to sex. Join us every Saturday for a new episode featuring yours truly and other smarter folk. We need you, and we want you with us. So come join us at the Manic Pixie Weirdo, where we accept, respect, and value you. Listen on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Oh yeah, be kind and stay weird.
Before we begin this week's episode, I'd like to start with a content warning. This podcast includes foul language and includes discussions of violent crimes. Some topics may be triggering and may include depictions of sexual assault, gore, torture, suicidal ideation, or discussions of mental health. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Richard is doing this. He's done it before Courtney. He just didn't succeed. And his fights with the people he's with turns into violence, and Courtney died. Richard started dating 3 weeks after Courtney died and tried it with the girl after Courtney. Wow. The girl before Courtney, same thing, did the same thing to her. And he's not going to stop. He has to be stopped because another girl is going to die. Whoever stands between him and his drugs is going to die. And the parents put them up to it. The parents encourage them to be his savior.
For today's episode, Amanda and I will be giving an update and also highlighting a current missing persons case.
And then we will be diving into the case of Courtney Heater, who passed away from an apparent heroin and fentanyl overdose.
Except it's strange because Courtney didn't do drugs.
We will be hearing from Courtney's mother, Debbie Heater, and all of the just plain off things that have occurred with this case.
A Nefarious Nightmare presents Catch-22 and a Double-Edged Sword, the murder of Courtney Heater. Prior to the meat of this episode and going forward, we will make this a segment. The idea actually came from both CJ from Beyond the Rainbow podcast and the ladies from A Little Wicked podcast. So I'd like to highlight a current missing persons case. The following case comes as a recommendation from CJ from Beyond the Rainbow. We were previously going to discuss Leah Brandon, but she has fortunately been found safe. So we're going to move on to this one. Wesley Billingsley was last seen on the morning of June 12, 2018 by some friends at a grocery store he drove by in San Diego, California. He had plans to meet up with people later that day, then he had plans to help some friends move the next day, and also had work, but on all three occasions he had been a no-show. His mother, Crystal, made a near 9-hour trip to San Diego knowing something was wrong when searching the places he was known to frequent and to ask questions. Wes was also known for frequently posting on social media, but suddenly he went quiet, like radio silence. There had been no leads or investigators until 2 months later, where they found his black Ford Expedition as well as many of his personal belongings abandoned in a rural area 20 minutes away. It's assumed by some that he was heading to Mexico, but his truck was found in a dirt road that wasn't exactly walking distance to the border. Wes was working on moving up in the business world, had graduated San Diego University just 2 years prior with a business degree, and had just moved to San Diego, kind of hitting a financial rough patch despite staying with his mother to save some money. As of the time he disappeared, he's described as 5'8", around 140 to 150 pounds, short brown hair, hazel eyes, and several tattoos. One tattoo that's noted is the flying ghost with fangs from Ghostbusters on his upper right arm and shoulder area, and a Japanese alphabetical character below that. There are several theories as to what may have happened, and I'll include the link to the article in the show notes, but if anyone has any information on Wes's whereabouts, you're encouraged to contact San Diego Police Department at 619-531-2844. You can also submit an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers at sdcrimestoppers.org or call them at 855-580-8477. Also, check out the Facebook page Crystal had set up called Help Find Wes Billingsley and show your support.
Another update is that our A Year to XYZ episode, I covered this like a few episodes back, I think, right?
Yeah. It was a year,
I covered
a year,
several. A year.
Yeah, it was a year to examine your zipper.
Yeah, that was the name of it. So I covered several missing persons cases, one being that of Brandon Lawson. If you haven't heard about this case or that episode, please pause here and go listen. But the update is that, unfortunately, clothes and personal effects that belong to Brandon were found by a member of another podcast, who we will mention here in a second. And within that same vicinity, human remains were also found. The skull is being sent to UNT to be tested for DNA, but the family said in a Facebook post that they know in their hearts that it is Brandon. I want to shout out Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet podcast for being among a small group of people who went on a foot search for Brandon. It's really very refreshing to see true crime content creators that actually give a damn.
Yeah.
And while we all must respect the privacy of the family in this time, we would like to send our love and prayers to this family. It's never easy losing a family member. Mm-mm. And we really hope they receive closure in this case.
It's just so sad. Just incredibly sad. And just so everybody knows, this is a case that Amanda has been like following seriously very close for a very long time. So
yes,
yeah, our hearts and prayers definitely go out to this family.
Yeah, it really did break my heart when I saw the news.
Yeah. With this, we're going to go ahead and add in a clip from Debbie, who is Courtney Heater's mom, real quick.
My name is Deborah Heater, and my daughter, Courtney Deborah Heater, is my daughter. We're both, I'm originally was born in Chicago, and Courtney was originally born in LaGrange. The hospital was in LaGrange, but we lived in Manhattan when she was born, and then moved to Plainfield Township, and that's where we're both from.
Speaking of CJ, who I briefly mentioned in the first segment, early January, I was having a discussion with my friend CJ from a podcast that I know you all have heard of, which is called Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. And if you haven't heard of it, you better go get woke and go listen.
We had made CJ aware of this case about Alex Van Dawson. Actually, I take that back. Courtney had reminded her, as she had already had this on her list. She covered it, and thanks to that, several other creators are being made aware of his story and either have covered or will be covering his case as well. I wanted to throw that tidbit in there because it further strengthens the fact that the word of mouth is huge when it comes to raising awareness.
So with this, I want to let everyone know that CJ actually made me aware of this story of Courtney Heater, and she linked me up with Courtney's mom, Deborah Heater. The message I received from CJ is as follows.
Hey, my bleeding heart friend. I was sent this to the Darkcast DMs on Facebook. I have no idea if anyone will take it.
Oh, by the way, guys, Darkcast Network is amazing, and, you know, everyone should be subbing to every single podcast on that network. Just saying.
I'm reaching out for help because my daughter, Courtney Heater, was murdered by her abusive boyfriend on February 2nd, 2020. Unfortunately, my daughter was murdered by the hands of her violent, abusive, drug-addicted boyfriend. His family has strong ties to higher-ups in the city as she was found deceased, as well as the Columbus County Oath Keepers. which were involved with the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. I have a ton of evidence that I had paid a private investigators to gather because the sheriff did not investigate my daughter's murder. Even an FBI agent called and emailed me to gather information on these people, but now it's been over 3 months since I've heard anything from them. I've called and got nowhere.
She went on to say, quote, I was interviewed first by a news station in January of 2021 by an investigative reporter in North Carolina, and they were ready to run my story, but at the last minute in February of 2021, they were told they could not run the story. I'm sure that the corruption that we are dealing with are the people who stopped this from airing at the very last minute, the day of the scheduled airing. This is the power and control that these people have in North Carolina. I've spent every day in the last almost 2 years trying to get help. No one's helping me. I know that I have a strong case because I even have a letter from the attorney in Michigan stating that I have a case. Anyway, help getting me linked with an attorney or a media outlet that's willing to help me would be greatly appreciated. We need a loud voice to get the right person's attention to help. I only have until February 2nd of 2022 to file against the sheriff because of the statute of limitations. If I don't prove the corruption, then I can never get justice for Courtney Heater.
Debbie has been an absolute pleasure to work with, and as we always try to do with every case, we're here to tell Courtney Heater's story as accurately as possible and to literally wake everyone the F up to what keeps happening.
One thing to note ahead of time, the accused will be named under a pseudonym to protect Debbie and her family, as well as anyone else. Unfortunately, as it would have it, some cases do require anonymity until a thorough investigation takes place and is completed. Further, we do not wish to tarnish the integrity of this case or hopefully investigation, so know that aside from the pseudonyms being used, this case is 100% factual. Upon discussion, Deborah and I decided on the name Richard Cheddar for the accused, and for a little tidbit of humor to help lighten this story somewhat, think of something that's short for Richard Cheddar. Do I have your attention yet? No? Okay. Try Dick Cheese.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it is.
But also fitting for the disgusting individual that murdered Courtney Heater. On January 12th, 2022, we opened a Facebook message from Deborah Heater that said pretty much similar to what CJ had forwarded us, including this, quote, his family are connected to a corrupt Columbus County sheriff. The Columbus County Oath Keepers and the family has long ties to the community by donated land to the Baptist Church and have lived in this Columbus County, North Carolina forever. Therefore, the murder is being covered up, end quote. At the end of this episode, we will dive much further into what else Debbie had to say because it is very important.
She was incredible. Always the biggest smile. And when she would smile so big, her eyes would squint a little. But she always had the best smile. Always willing to do whatever you asked when you were little. When she was little, yes, mom, yes, mom. Really looked up to her brother, her big brother Austin. Couldn't be enough with him, couldn't follow him enough. And then she got to an age and she just became more like me. We're born in the same month, we're both Geminis. When she she followed her brother's footsteps and joined ice hockey. She was a little tomboy. Did everything I did. I taught her how to do electric. She did everything I did. I could bring her anywhere and she was the best kid. From ice hockey, she got into rugby. From rugby, she was doing cheer, travel hockey, travel rugby, and she did that for pretty much her whole life. That ended when she met and she wasn't playing sports anymore, but she played sports all the way up till she was a woman in college. She was happy, go lucky, never sitting and doing nothing, reading. I can't say enough about her. She's the best thing I ever did. I wish I was half the woman that she was. She's the best thing I ever did. Her friends would describe her as that she was everybody's best friend. She was there whenever she needed anybody. She was the best listener. She was the light in the room. She brought the party with her. She brought friends with her. All her friends became each other's friends. all the pictures I've ever seen of her, there's always somebody kissing on her or she's kissing on them, hugging, just the love. When I hear her name, I think of love. She just shown so much love. Her friends, there isn't one person that knew her had anything bad to say about her. Not one thing. They just loved her. She was the best person, they said. I raised such an incredible young, polite woman, responsible, caring, nurturing, loved animals. There's really nothing I could say about bad about her. It's just she just loved too much the wrong person.
Courtney Deborah Heater was born in LaGrange, Illinois on May 22nd, 1995. The day she died was February 2nd, 2020. Her memorial was February 22nd, 2020. 2 years to the day this episode will be released. Lots of coincidences in this episode, as you will hear.
Courtney is described as happy, loved animals, wanted to do anything her brother did when she was growing up, a major social butterfly both on social media and off. She always took tons of photos and never deleted them. She made friends easy and was an incredible listener. She wanted to help every living thing on this planet. She was kind, generous, and had a loving heart. She had an infectious laugh, always happy and always smiling. This is evidenced by the video that Debbie shared with me. Courtney had loved her friends and was loyal to them. Would be there for anyone who needed her. From a young age, she had a deep relationship with God. She always had her Heavenly Father on her mind. And that's quoted from Debbie.
If Courtney had keywords, they would be adventurous, athletic, genuine, humorous, personable, sociable, driven, outgoing, compassionate, always smiling, independent, religious. She was the kind of person who detested bullying and would be the first to stand up against bullying. She always tried to encourage people no matter what their weaknesses was, and always tried to lead by example to help people overcome whatever obstacle was that made them feel inadequate. She was bold and was not afraid to talk to anyone she came across. This ties into the fact that while Courtney never used or abused drugs, she remained supportive and caring for those who did. Debbie mentioned to me that there was a time where a son of their family friend had become addicted to heroin, and Courtney had tried to step in and help while also trying to be an encouraging friend and help him to be a better father to his child. The family's friend's son rejected Courtney and the help she offered. Their friendship soured, but remained in good graces with her brother.
Courtney had plenty of hobbies and loved sports. She was involved in rugby and ice hockey, was a cheerleader, involved in Irish dance, and was also an athletic trainer. She also enjoyed watching shows like Say Yes to the Dress. It's noted that she loved to watch the reruns over and over. Grey's Anatomy, same with the reruns. Teen Mom, Married at First Sight, Lucifer, and American Horror Story. She also had ADHD, which seemed to draw people closer to her than ever. And I will say, people with ADHD do share something in common, which is creativity. Another thing is, ADHD people share this wonderfully beautiful trait called anxiety and depression, which is something Courtney has been treated for since she first got with Richard fucking Cheddar.
She known him 20 months. She moved out there 17. And looking through what of her phone I have, she was documenting for about a year. And with each incident, it escalated.
Her entire life, even as a young girl, Courtney aspired to have a career in the health field. Something happened to Courtney in high school that drove that nail further into the coffin, which was a brain surgery that was the result of a seizure she had at home while hanging out with her boyfriend. Courtney had suffered with headaches her entire life, and upon surgery, a cyst was discovered at the top of her spinal cord. She had evidently been born with this cyst, which caused pressure on her brain, and it was further discovered that this would have been the cause of the seizure and the headaches. Debbie remembers, quote, Coco had to have the CT scans every year to check on the condition of the cyst in her brain. It was not removed in her brain surgery, just deflated, because while trying to remove, she had bleeding on the brain, so it had to stay, end quote. After this, Courtney further developed an interest in the medical field and discovered she wanted to be a nurse in pediatric neurology.
Courtney also had beautiful handwriting, was very artistic, and she just loved writing. She loved animals, especially her German Shepherd, Macy, her very own chocolate lab, Harlequin, or Harley, and Ella, a cat that she rescued with her then roommate. She was also been known to be somewhat of a prankster. When I asked Debbie what everyone's initial reaction to her passing was, Debbie says, quote, "Everyone who has ever entered her life was shocked and in disbelief. There's not one person who is not heartbroken. There's not one day in the last 2 years that someone she was friends with, worked with, was in sports with, or even just an acquaintance with, that does not reach out to me and just tell me about how much they loved her. I even found people who just read about her story that felt compelled to tell me what a great person she is. I can't even count the amount of people who would never believe she would have done this, and to them, she was stolen from us, all by the hands of her abusive, drug-addicted boyfriend and his family. The common theme that I keep hearing is that they expect her to walk in the room or call and say, 'Got ya. I'm still here. I didn't die.'"
Oh, my heart.
Yeah.
So Courtney met Richard Cheddar on Tinder in March of 2018. At this time, she was living with her roommate, who was also a rugby player and teammate. Courtney had been getting over a real bad breakup with an Australian rugby player she had met, and she had expressed that she was deeply in love with this person and actually planned in the long term to move to Australia and marry him. He had unfortunately fallen for someone else in his country, and she was crushed. So at this time, Courtney moved on within a few months and then took the Tinder.
I've asked for the same thing from the week I went and picked up my daughter's body, is that I hope that Richard would just be a man and say what happened, speak the truth. Just be accountable and tell the truth. I'm hoping the right person hears this, is either a medical examiner or an attorney, or someone can bring some evidence to me or bring awareness, because Richard is doing this. He's done it before Courtney. He just didn't succeed, and his fights with the people he's with turns into violence, and Courtney died. Richard started dating 3 weeks after Courtney died and tried it with the girl after Courtney. The girl before Courtney, same thing, did the same thing to her. And he's not going to stop. He has to be stopped, because another girl is going to die. Whoever stands between him and his drugs is going to die. And the parents put them up to it. The parents encourage them to be his savior.
At this point, we're going to take a brief break. We have a promo from the Jury Room podcast discussing his new series on addiction. We will be right back.
With cocaine, one snort, and it just owned my body and soul. Something in my system wanted that, and once cocaine was there, it was like the missing link. Click. Like when you turn on lights, it's on or off. There's no halfway. Cocaine was like my on switch. Stephen King. Some people understand that feeling of an on switch that Stephen King describes. It's a need, a compulsion, an overwhelming drive for some of us who dared to dance with the allure of a substance that could make us forget our pain, suffering, grief, and heartache. It's a dance with the devil that some of us sign willingly, knowing that the next big hit, the next big high, could be our last, but still doing it anyway. Still chasing that dream in hopes of leaving ourselves behind and losing oneself to the drift of a high. Some of us come away from the chase, realizing that at some point, something has to change. Something has to give or we will lose our lives to following that high. Some of us are never able to stop. Never able to stop the pursuit of that demon that lures us in with promises of escaping the prisons of our lives. Join us for our upcoming series on the struggles of addiction, and where we explore our very human need to escape our lives and fall down into the spiral of drugs and alcoholism, even if that spiral may one day lead to our very own demise at the hands of a compulsion we cannot control. If you or a loved one has been struggling with addiction or has in the past and would like to share your story, please feel free to reach out to me via social media or through email at juryroompodcast@gmail.com. Welcome to Addicted, a Jury Room production, coming soon to wherever you listen to this podcast.
We are back, and we were just starting to talk about how Courtney and Richard Cheddar met. He came to Illinois with plans to see his toddler, and the relationship then grew a bit deeper, and Courtney was charmed due to the fact that he had seemed to be a good father, and also had a major Baptist background in his family. Eventually, she found out that they all lived in North Carolina, and at this point she moved in with him, and things started to take a weird turn for the worse.
He started out by not allowing her on social media. He'd already been hurt by his previous girlfriend, the mother of his child, because allegedly she had cheated on him. Now, I'm going to drive the word allegedly home because Debbie did tell me that she did not believe that to be true at all, and that his former girlfriend was actually proven to be quite the opposite of what Richard Cheese had to say. So you see, it's not that, he didn't trust her, it's that he didn't trust social media. And that's sarcasm, by the way. Plus, let it be known that the likelihood of his ex cheating on him is extremely low, as this was very likely just an excuse that Richard Cheddar used to be able to control Courtney.
Ugh, sickening. So, Courtney had described the relationship to her mom saying, quote, "When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad," end quote. It got to a point where Courtney didn't mention much, if at all, about her relationship to Richard, to her mother, or her former roommate. She even didn't mention the restriction of social media usage, dictated by the dick of the cheesiest form. Her roommate was actually very savvy to this, quote-unquote, snake charmer, as Debbie lovingly refers to this asshat, and really tried to encourage Courtney to stay and not go with Dick. But love is blind.
Debbie recalls that Courtney changed a lot and was not herself anymore. She would not have taken any of this from anyone, and it's a wonder what Richard had that drove her to change. She was not happy much of the time, not smiling, not doing things that kept her happy. She simply was just not herself. She had to quit her job, one that she loved more than anything, just to move in with this guy. At her farewell party, everyone tried to convince Courtney to stay, but it just was not happening.
It then progressed where Richard sabotaged every one of Courtney's friendships, including the friendship she had with her former roommate, and family relationships, including the one she had with her own mother, whom she was really close to. One by one, picked off each relationship and then had successfully isolated her.
The good news is, even if these relationships all were sabotaged at the hands of Dick Cheese, every single person did step up to help find answers in the name of justice for Courtney Heater. Debbie recently posted a link to a coworker of Courtney Heater's. Her username on TikTok is mo.makes.magic with a K at the end, and she talks a lot about the Duggars and things like that. I immediately like this person because she just comes off as raw with like a lot of snark. She seems like a hothead, and I love it. So she had this TikTok video raising awareness about Courtney Heater, and I did ask her permission to let me include that in this episode. So the following is that audio clip.
Y'all usually see me on here talking about Christian fundamentalism, talking about the Duggars, just me being sassy in general. Not this video. If you like true crime, this is for you. If you do not like true crime, no, this ain't the video. This ain't the one. You're still here? Cool. 2 years ago today, a former coworker of mine, Courtney Heater, passed away. We believe that it was at the hands of her boyfriend. We believe that her boyfriend and his family helped cover it up. Even more disturbingly, we believe that the coroner and sheriff of Columbus County, North Carolina, also helped cover it up. There's a lot of things that do not add up, that do not make sense. None of it. The boyfriend and his family have very shady pasts, and a lot of things were overlooked within the initial autopsy of Courtney. Now, I go into details about it, but every time I have, my videos have been taken down. So I'm going to give you guys some awesome resources to educate yourself on this case. Hopefully this makes it to someone who can help. I'm going to put the TikTok account in the comments that her mother started to get awareness out and to help spread the story. There's also a Facebook page devoted to this case where you can find all the information. There's a ton of links. And there was also a podcast that Courtney's mother did with the True Crime Mamas podcast. I think it was like 3 or 4 different episodes that you can also find on this Facebook page. That's going to go in the link tree that I have in my bio. Courtney deserves justice. Her family and friends deserve healing, and no one else deserves to go through what they have at the hands of the boyfriend's family, or the local government trying to help cover everything up. It's a mind-boggling case that deserves more media attention.
Richard shortly became abusive to Courtney both physically and emotionally. Not only would he tear her down, insult her, tell her she'd never find better, things like that, but he would also beat her. There were times after she moved in with him that she would call her mom when he pushed her out of a moving car, or he would leave her at a bar or, at the side of the road. Like, he was just your typical abusive fucking asshat.
Despicable.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse of a human being. So the dynamic between Richard and Courtney was very much so give-take, meaning Courtney gave, Richard took. Courtney would try to help him out. She'd stick around through thick and thin, even though she had reached out a few times for help after Richard had become physically abusive to her. Courtney desperately wanted to help this man become better, and she advocated for him to change for the better. Unfortunately, it's very unlikely a tiger will change its stripes.
At one point, around Thanksgiving, the year prior to her passing, Courtney opened up to her brother and to her mom, Debbie, and revealed that Richard was not only abusive, but also an active drug abuser and addict. Debbie confronted Richard about this, to which he told her not to talk to him about it anymore, about this, and he also said, if I can't have Courtney, nobody can. I mean, this just your fucking typical narcissist.
Gross.
This is probably one of those episodes where y'all are going to hear Amanda and I both get pretty heated because
I'm already just getting little hives. I'm getting so pissed off.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't to say that this is any worse than all the rest of the episodes. It's just that we were given so many details, and it's just, you see it and you're just like, holy fuck, and yet nothing's being done about it. It's just, it's maddening.
Yeah, absolutely. So during this time that he was there with Courtney, he had been experiencing withdrawals, and Debbie didn't know this until after Courtney had died.
Prior to learning of this case, I asked Debbie if there were any known factors of abuse. The next paragraph came straight from Debbie herself. She says, quote, "I personally know of many domestic abuse assaults after Courtney died. I know she said to me that when things were good between Richard, Cheddar, and her, they were good, and when they were bad, they were very bad. In November of 2019, she told me that she would carry a weapon with her at all times after her assault, September 25th. Courtney documented many incidents of assaults, but I was unaware of them until after she had passed away. Courtney was the wall between him and drugs, and she had to stop him at all costs, even if it meant her being a whipping pole at the request of his family. I felt that at this time was a few days of beatings where she did not let him go, and then it went far. He was in the middle of a custody struggle with his toddler's mother and could not have another sheriff incident report so close to the court date. He knew he had to stop her, and she was trying to leave him, but he kept threatening to kill himself if she left and leave his child without a father. Courtney loved this child and was taking care of him whether his father was there or not. This is referring to the toddler that we did mention before.
So, I'm just getting angry. So, Debbie says that Courtney put this child's needs above her own, which honestly, what a mother should be doing. While Courtney was not his biological mother, she clearly had a nurturing spirit and felt that she had to protect him. Courtney would tell Debbie that she wanted to get the child away from him, but was afraid of the family and their ties and the corruption in such a small town. She was also terrified of how they acted as though they are above the law and were linked to the sheriffs through the Oath Keepers. Debbie also recalls that he always put drugs above all else and had done this in prior relationships.
The theory of Courtney's mother is that he put the drugs in her food or drink. Courtney didn't see it coming and she died. Quote, his drug of choice is fentanyl and heroin, and he and his family has long documented history in the court system to their lack of safety, carrying weapons and shooting at people, as well as their drug use in the court system.
According to the 911 call, Richard said 3 times that Courtney does not use drugs. His father also states over and over throughout the relationship that she does not do drugs. That is why she was trained by the mother to administer Narcan to Richard. So basically, Richard and his entire family straight up admit that they know she doesn't do drugs, yet somehow Courtney died by purposefully overdosing and nobody's looking at it.
Debbie goes on to say, quote, the mother cannot practice her nursing in North Carolina because of an incident of stealing drugs out of the hospital where she worked. She now can practice her nursing in South Carolina, where she has a second home, which is 30 minutes from North Carolina, near where Courtney had lived with her boyfriend of 17 months.
It's believed that Courtney had been privy to a lot more than she had let on. She had been finding out a lot, and Debbie believes that she found out way more than she was supposed to. She was considered to be a loose thread and could not just go. It would cause problems for the custody battle he had in Illinois and that the parental grandparents paid for, as well as other unethical and possibly illegal workings in this would-be corrupt family.
So Debbie believes he put his drugs of choice in her food without her knowledge, while she had been recovering from 2 broken ribs that he had given her. She also had been found to have bruising, pneumonia, and the brooch edema in her autopsy.
Debbie states that, quote, Courtney has had several migraine headaches before and after her brain surgery, and was at someone's mercy while having these headaches. Richard could have very easily done the cocktail of heroin and fentanyl when she would have not known the difference. They even come in little blue pills similar to Aleve, which Courtney took for her headaches. Another thing with the medical condition of her headaches, Courtney could have had any kind of pain medications that she wanted for that, but she did not take doctors up on it. End quote.
So one thing to mention real quick is that people don't realize sometimes people have some really crazy severe headaches, and what people don't realize is that sometimes these headaches can be blinding, what's the right word for it? Disabling. You could seriously,
blinding pretty much.
Yeah, you could
exactly.
You could have a severe headache and be sent home very easily because you cannot focus on anything other than that headache. It's almost, from what I've understood or heard, stroke level. So what Debbie's trying to say is, he could have easily passed her a pill and she would have never known the difference because she was too busy worrying about a severe headache, which, if that's the case, it's really fucked up because you're basically taking advantage of somebody who is very vulnerable.
It's so sad. So, as promised in the beginning, here is the rest of what Deborah also goes on to say. Quote, the Columbus County Oath Keepers were involved with the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots too. I have a ton of evidence that I had paid a private investigators to gather because the sheriff did not investigate my daughter's murder. Even an FBI agent in Washington called and emailed me to gather information on these people, but now that it's been over 3 months since I have heard anything from her, I have called and gotten nowhere. End quote.
Debbie then says, quote, I was interviewed first by WECT-NBC in January of 2021, who's an investigative reporter in North Carolina, and she was ready to run my story, but at the last minute in February of 2021, she was told she couldn't run the story. I'm sure that the corruption that we're dealing with are the people who stopped this from airing at the very last minute, the day of the scheduled airing. This is the power and control that these people have in North Carolina. This was the second investigative reporter, and the first one was someone in Greensboro, North Carolina, the Raw story, June 8th, 2021. This investigative reporter specializes in the Oath Keepers in that area.
Debbie also says, quote, I have spent every day of the last almost 2 years trying to get help, and no one is helping me. I know I have a strong case because I even have a letter from an attorney in Michigan stated that I have a case. But it doesn't make business sense financially for his firm, so they won't take the case. Additionally, I have over 12,000 signatures from change.org and have the sheriff to investigate, but I'm still getting nowhere. I also was interviewed by CBS Chicago that aired on February 2nd, 2021, and still have no help. I've also been featured on the True Crime Mamas podcast with 4 episodes, and they are expanding their coverage of this case to 2 more episodes because of the responses they have been receiving. At this point, I think the media needs to get involved because the people involved in this seem unreachable by the normal system, because even the magistrate judge in Columbus County, North Carolina, is a relative to this corrupt sheriff.
So Courtney's mom is wanting justice for Courtney. There are certain things in this investigation and case that are being overlooked or ignored. Certain people in this case that are believed to be protected suspects. One thing to note. And one of the first things she had said to me was, quote, I'm needing help getting linked with an attorney or media outlet that's willing to help me. It would be greatly appreciated. We need a loud voice to get the right person's attention to help. I only have until February 2nd of 2022 to file against the sheriff because of the statute of limitations. If I don't prove the corruption, then I can never get justice for Courtney Heater.
Deborah replied later with, quote, I found out the reason for all the corruption is there's no accountability. There's no one over the sheriff, no one over the district attorney, no one over the state police, no one over the governor, no one over the attorney general. I got the names of 2 House representatives and 1 House speaker for the General Assembly that told me all that. And it's up to laws being changed for check and balances. North Carolina has no check and balances like other states, and I want to end the cycle of domestic violence.
Amen.
Amen, honey. If you see, stand up and report. You could save a life, and it might be somebody that you know. Also in October, the Clothesline Project airing Your Dirty Line.
Speaking further with Deborah Heater, I found that Courtney and I, also named Courtney, we have many things in common. Aside from the obvious, we also were both lovingly nicknamed Coco growing up. We're both very loud and vocal when it comes to righting wrongs. We both love to sing, and arguably she definitely sang way better than I ever could. You should hear the video if you haven't. She's great. And we both wore our heart on our sleeves, well, most of the time. Another strange coincidence. Not having anything to do with me, because it's not about me. This is about the victim. Deborah said that the timing of all this is just really bizarre, because this episode will be listed on February 2nd of 2022. The number 22 was Courtney's hockey jersey number. So it's almost as if we're just meant to tell her story and on that particular day.
Yes, I think she guides me. I really do. And she brings people to me that I don't find. And there's just too much with you, Courtney. And I love her name. And I run into a lot of Courtneys, but no one I could call on the phone and say Courtney to. Like I'll run into someone at a store, or I call up about my credit card. I'll get somebody, but not someone that I can speak to like yourself.
Well, thank you. I wish I could give you a big hug right now.
Me too.
I really,
Me too.
really do.
And then picking the 22nd, I always get discoveries or good things happen on the 22nd of months. Not every month, but a lot of breakthroughs came through to us on the 22nd.
Wow.
And that's her number. That's always been her jersey number. Her name on her jersey was Coco Kitty or Heat, because Heater, bring on the heat. They used to say that to her and my son on the hockey team.
Wow.
Everything you're saying, it's like it's channeling. And all she wanted to do was be like you, Courtney. She wanted a family and children. It's all she ever wanted, and to be a nurse.
So I listened to the 911 call. Richard sounded very upset and even terrified. He was yelling and screaming, "Courtney, Courtney, Courtney," over and over, and it sounded like he was attempting to get her to respond. The dispatcher did ask him to move her to the floor and watch to see if she was breathing. He also seemed to have attempted CPR. I feel that, honestly, the dispatcher who answered the call could have been a bit more couth in the way that she responded to him, because she may have gotten a clearer picture. As we all know, no matter what, it's not alright to act impatient with a 911 caller. With that being said, I understand that if you come across someone who might be deceased, it is natural to freak out, but I did detect a bit of over-dramatization in his voice. It's as if he was truly terrified, but not because she was dying, but that he might get caught. There's a difference in being panicked because someone's dying and panicked because you're about to get in trouble.
We then looked at the autopsy report and the photos that were sent to me. There was tons of bruising all over the body. She was in supine position, which meaning she had been lying on her back. Not a pro here, but from what I've learned, when someone is deceased, gravity and whatnot occurs, so blood will pull to the spot against the pressure of which the person is lying.
Thanks to CJ from Beyond the Rainbow, once again, CJ, for this tidbit of information. It's called lividity. So if she had been, say, like laying on her arm, blood would naturally pull there and cause the bruising.
So approximately half of the bruising was towards her back and the backs of her legs, but there is a puncture wound just behind her left ear. Several bits of bruising on her elbows, forearms, and what looks to be a small gash in her forehead, and like she had been hit on her head or her left eyebrow, and bits of bruising here and there on her torso. I talked to Debbie about this finding, and she asked me to add that on the reports, that she had bruising at different stages of healing, and she has 2 broken ribs that had no hematoma, which meant it was healing. Also on the ME report, he changes his story 2 times just in that one paragraph, and he is never asked to give a statement to the sheriff to this date.
We then looked at the pictures from prior assaults that Richard had inflicted. There's one where she has bruising up and down her upper inner right arm, as if she had been grabbed or yanked. Like, you could kind of see fingerprints that they'd been drugged. That's what I saw. Also, a huge bruise on her upper left arm, as though she had been hit by a baseball or a fist.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, according to an article from CBS Chicago, 6 months after Courtney's death, Debbie finally received the autopsy report and noted in the report more abuse, including blunt force trauma to the head, chest, abdomen, pelvis, and extremities. However, the cause of death was ruled to be an accidental heroin and fentanyl overdose.
Yeah, that's fucking strange.
Doesn't make sense to me at all.
No sense. There's another assault photo shared with us where Courtney had this formation of a bruise on her left eye and a ton of blood, a mark going down her neck as if she had been punched in the neck, and heavy bruising inside her lip. Those photos make it absolutely clear that this dick bag had been beating her. Also, as someone who has been victimized in the past, I can clearly tell that in these pictures, if you can look inside her eyes, it's as though she's silently screaming, "Please help me." And then in the autopsy photos, it's as if the last thing she thought was, "Why isn't anybody helping me?" And I'm not a professional, I'll clearly admit that, but my theory is this. He beat her, accidentally knocked her unconscious, knew that there was no way back from that, So he injected her with drugs in a panic and then made a hella over-dramatic 911 call. Whether by accident or on purpose, he 100% killed her.
So here we are, our little rinky-dink true crime podcast, attempting to push this out to the masses because we fucking want justice.
We fucking want justice.
Yes. So we ask listeners to please take a look into this, decide for yourselves what you believe to be the case, or your own theories. Also, if you know anything, please reach out to that local police department, their tip line, media outlets, newspapers, and even other creators, podcasters, as well as your own police department to get more eyes on this case.
Yeah, like Debbie says, she wants somebody loud. So let's get fucking loud, guys. Let's open up our mouths and get loud.
We need to.
Our hearts, prayers, and deep sympathies go out to Debbie, all of Courtney's friends, and her entire family. Remember, we need to be loud.
Yes.
Amanda, to end us off, do you have a quote?
I do.
Okay.
All right. My quote for the week. Everybody has goals, aspirations, or whatever, and everybody has been at a point in their lives where nobody believed in them.
Oh, I know exactly who did this one.
Ew.
My daughter.
Oh, no. I'll give you a hint.
Peppa Pig.
No. He is one of the loves of my life. He was on TV last night.
Blippi.
No, damn it. One last guess. You get one last guess.
I know I'm close.
Oh, so close.
Bob the Builder.
No, Eminem.
Okay. Oh, shit.
Marshall Mathers. I had to do an Eminem
man.
quote tonight because of the Super Bowl last night.
Man, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I did make sure that I watched that halftime. And I gotta tell you, I was transported way back to 1997 through 1999.
Let me tell you what.
Mary J.
I gotta say one thing about it. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
But when it was over, I kept sitting at my screen going, no, they're gonna come back. They're gonna do more.
They should have.
No, they're gonna come back. They're gonna do more. Shush. And Ben was like, no, it's over. Here's Amanda. I'm just sitting in front of the screen until it was over.
I gotta tell you though.
I'm like, no, they're coming back.
Mary J. Blige, she spoke to me.
Oh,
Oh,
my gosh, 50 Cent. I was so
I
excited.
saw a meme with 50 Cent, like that.
You mean dollar?
No, he was 50 Cent, but he was like upside down, and it was saying what I look like when I'm trying to reach for my phone charger. So, anyways, do we have any, reviews to read? Any shout outs before we go?
Yes. We got a 3-star review.
Woo, woo.
Woo! And they said that they value the fact that we're taking time to speak with family members of the victims, but they could not handle our circus music.
And while we appreciate the constructive criticism, there's no circus music in our podcast, but we can agree to disagree. We really are just trying to do better, but we also realize we just can't please everyone. So thanks, though. Hopefully you'll give us another chance someday.
Yep. So now on to the 5-star review that came in from someone by the name of Jay.
I think it was either Magoni or maybe it's Mago, New York. I don't know.
It's
but
J.
They know who they are.
Goughny. Whoever you are, we love you.
Whoever you are.
So they said,
we love all of y'all, to be honest with you. Even
Yeah.
a 3-star, 4-star, and that 1-star.
I mean, you're at least taking time out of your day to let us
Listen
know.
to us. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
No, we love you. Anyway, so it says, so glad I found a new pod. This podcast is excellent, super addicting, well done, funny, smart, and I love the cases that they cover.
Oh, Jay.
Oh.
Thank you. I don't know where you got smart from, but thanks.
That's all me, honey. That's all me.
Thank you both for taking... Oh, man. Thank you both for taking the time to listen. And you guys, be sure to check out the Jury Room podcast with Kevin Cook.
Oh, yeah. Courtney and Kevin talk about the branch. Damn it, Courtney.
What?
Div-
We talk about the olive branch.
Davidians?
No, the
Davidians?
branch Davidians.
Davidians. I like that word. Davidians. Okay.
Hey, what'd you think of those episodes? I was so fucking nervous on the one I was interviewed on.
Well, I love them, of course. I mean, duh. I love you, so I'm loving anything you want. But both of them are very entertaining. I loved them both. Can't wait to hear what everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's time that we have a palate cleanser. Isn't that coming up next week?
Thank God. Like, I really absolutely do love bringing awareness to these families, but it's time. Amanda and I will be talking to Alex from Weird Distractions. She was the one that left us that really badass review from Canada, eh? But yeah, she's going to be on our podcast, and we're going to be talking about some common or even not so common conspiracy theories.
Yes!
So, get y'all's tinfoil hats ready and let's party. Party on, Wayne.
Party on, Garth.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
And slather that frickin' deodorant all over.
Yeah, especially if you're dick cheese. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to A Nefarious Nightmare. All research done for this podcast, depending on the episode, is written by Amanda Cronin and Courtney Fenner. Scripting, editing, mastering, and sound design are done by Courtney Fenner. If you would like to visit our links, merch store, or social media, please either go to www.anefariousnightmare.com or to our link tree. That's linktr.ee/A Nefarious Nightmare Podcast. Music used for our intro and exit is by Ghost Stories Incorporated. You may find their music at bandcamp.com. Additional backing music for today's episode was provided by Epidemic Sound. Please consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts to help us expand our audience.